All right, today we're going to be covering the Baltimore Ravens 2025 upcoming season, courtesy of Warren Sharp and his book. If you haven't guys already, you should go get this book. I got the PDF version and I got a hard copy. Look how thick this thing is. But oh my God, this thing has, if you're a data junkie, an NFL junkie, and especially if you're a sports bettor, you should go check out Warren Sharp's book. Get you a copy of that. Look at all this. You're about to see in this video exactly what you get, chapter by chapter on every single team, plus other extra nuggets on here. But we're heading into John Harbaugh's 18th season. They're bringing back their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, so no changes there. Abdi says number 77 is horrible. Yeah. Well, we'll see. They're going to make cuts here in a couple of weeks. We'll see if he makes a cut. I mean, after you think if you've been in the league since 2022, it's usually year 3 for linemen. Even the good linemen who start year 1, they don't start getting round into form, into shape, and hit their kind of, what their prime and peak is going to be until year 3. So we will see. What up, Ghost Wins? A number of factors in the AFC. Number 1 is the Chiefs. Ravens need home field advantage. I think the Chiefs are in for it this season. I think it's going to be an ugly season for the Chiefs, but we'll see. We've already covered the Chiefs. If you guys haven't seen that, go check out that video. It's on here wherever you're watching. They did not get, for once, they didn't get any favors in the schedule. None. They're older. They've got horrible schedule. I don't know, man. It could snowball fast. They better hope they stay healthy. But you can never count out Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So we will see. But yeah, so the Ravens, their season win total projection is at 11.5. Last year they went 12-5. Year before that, 13-4. It's been a good couple of years regular season for the Ravens, of course, as always. But then they just can't get past who was it? The Bills this last year. I think it was Chiefs the year before that. They just can't get past anyone in the playoffs to finally punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. They do start off pretty rough. They're on the road week 1 against the Bills, as you can see here. And one thing that we like to look at, and Warren Sharp talks about in his book, is the rest advantage and disadvantage you have throughout the season. So, for example, last year, a lot of people think the 49ers just fell off a cliff and they were terrible, and that's why they played so poorly. It was the injury bug that got them, obviously starting off with Christian McCaffrey, but then Brandon Ayuk, after you paid, get hurt, and then a bunch of defensive players start falling off. And one of the reasons why the injury bug was amplified, in my opinion, was the Niners had the worst rest disadvantage, I guess, in NFL history. It was minus 21 days. So their schedule was so brutal. So what that means is over the course of the season, net, they had 21 days less rest than their opponents throughout the course of the season when preparing for a game. That's not good, especially when you're dealing with injuries. You just don't have time to get healthy. So with the Bills here, or with the Ravens here, they have, as we can see, it's down here. 1, 2, 3. They have 4 games with net rest disadvantage, and then 1, 2, 3 games with rest advantage. So net 1 game of rest disadvantage on the season. Now, that doesn't really mean much, but like some teams that we've been covering, we've seen, it depends on in the season where you're getting those. Like for example, we had a team, I think it was the Bucks. They had rest advantage at the beginning of the season, but to end the season in the last 5 weeks, they had 3 games of rest disadvantage. So it just compounds. Unlike here where the Ravens is kind of every other, for the most part, 2 disadvantage, then 2 rest advantage. So it's kind of spread out. So take that for what it is. Abdi says the Ravens are going 13-4. They could. I like the Ravens in week 1 against the Bills, by the way. It's going to be one of my best bets. Ravens against the Bills week 1. But that's a tough game to go on the road to start the season. But then you get to come home and take on Cleveland. Then, look at these first 4 games. You get a home game against Cleveland, but you got to go on the road to Buffalo. Week 3, you're home against Detroit. And then you got to go down to Arrowhead and play Kansas City. That is brutal, although I do think I would not be surprised to see the Ravens 4-0 through that stretch. So if you do like the Ravens this season, I would buy in on them now. I know it's not sexy and fun because they are the favorites to win the Super Bowl, so you're only getting plus 800 on them to win it, or maybe plus 750. But if you can do like the betting exchanges where you can buy stock into them, like right now you can buy the Ravens to win it all at 12%, which is essentially 8-1. Do it, because if they can go through this stretch in the beginning and be 4-0, they're going to shoot up, and you could cash out then if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could for a profit after just 4 weeks of the season. But then they're home. They got 2 home stints before their bye against the Texans, who they dominate and own the last few seasons, and against the Rams, which was a great playoff game. It was going to be a playoff rematch. No, wait, sorry, no, that wasn't. I was thinking Rams and Eagles. Never mind, scratch that. Would be a great playoff game if they ever met. I guess they'd have to meet in the Super Bowl. Then they got an early Week 7 bye. Home against the Bears. Look at that. They're going to be home for a month straight. Home, bye, home. Then they got to go on the road for 3 straight games. And we got to watch that Cleveland game, what the spread is going to be on that Cleveland game. That might be a spot to take Cleveland. The Ravens might be a little overvalued there. But they'll be away in Miami, away in Minnesota, then away in Cleveland. Then they get 3 straight home games. It's actually not a bad schedule. You get Jets, Bengals, Steelers. Then you got to go on the road to the Bengals. So they will be playing the Bengals 2 times in 3 weeks. Home against my Patriots, and then away to finish the season, which is not easy. You got to go to Green Bay and then to Pittsburgh. That's not an easy way to finish the season, but not a bad schedule compared to some of the other ones we've seen. Green Bay, all their toughest games they get at home. They have a brutal schedule, but they get to play every single tough game at home. It's crazy. Key players they lost over the offseason. They lost right guard Patrick McCarry to the Jags, Brandon Stevens, cornerback, to the Jets, Malik Harrison, linebacker, to the Steelers, Josh Jones, right guard, out to Seattle, Nelson Aguilar is gone, Tre'Davious White is gone. He went back to the Bills. Who else did they lose? Josh Johnson, he gone. How are they ever going to recover from that? Some other key people they lost there. Key players they added. They didn't really do much. They didn't have much money to spend in free agency, but they did go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. They got a really solid. I mean, we saw Cooper Rush as a backup quarterback in Dallas win some games. So when you're looking for a backup quarterback, having a quarterback that has been shown that they can win, that's a good move there. I thought that was a good pickup, and good for him. The best job in the world is backup quarterback in the NFL. You get paid handsomely, and you have 0 expectations. Great gig there. And then just a couple minor people there that they ended up picking up. Their draft, 27th overall pick this year, they took safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia. How about that? Malachi Starks out of Georgia with their first round pick. Stayed on the defensive side of the ball in round 2, and they took linebacker Mike Green out of Marshall. Went and got a big boy off of LSU's line. They got offensive tackle Emory Jones Jr., linebacker Tadai Bunchen out of Cal. And then look at this 5th and 6th round, man. They had a bunch of draft picks. Man, when you got 6 picks in the 5th and 6th round, you're just hoping one of those guys comes through. So they went and got a big boy, a cornerback. They got a kicker, because we all know the Justin Tugger. By the way, got my custom-made Justin Tugger shirt on. Then they got a wide receiver, defensive tackle, cornerback, guard. Big draft for them. Trying to just draft for need and see if one of these players can pan out. I don't mind it. Looks good to me. But let's dive into this. There's a reason to be optimistic if you're a Ravens fan, such has been the case now for several seasons. After the last 5 years, the Ravens have consistently had one of the highest preseason win totals in NFL, fluctuating between 10.5 to 11.5 since 2020. 11.5 this year, by the way. Only Chiefs and 49ers can say the same. But after a soul-crushing loss to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and the signing of Derrick Henry a couple months later, the 24 season felt different. Everything seemed to be positioned for success, including the fact that the 24 Ravens had the NFL's #1 best net rest edge in NFL history. That's that rest, disadvantage, and advantage we're talking about. Last year, the Niners had the worst. Last year, the Ravens had the best. This year, the Lions have the best. I wanted to fade the Lions, but they have 13 days rest edge over the course of the season. It's hard to fade teams that are good and then also get rest advantages. Let's see. What would defense do with a guy like Henry on the field? How do you stop King Henry and Lamar Jackson read option? You don't. Do you load the box stop Henry? Because if you play with the 7 defenders, let alone more, Lamar, the number one efficient quarterback passing the balls in 23 against 7+ man boxes. The more problems there are for your opponents, the easier it is for you, and that was the case for the Ravens. In fact, it was even better than expected because the Ravens also were the NFL's number one healthiest team last year. That's not repeatable, by the way. That is not repeatable. Like most offenses, the Ravens spend, or most teams, the Ravens spends more of their money on offense than defense. That's going to be with every team that has a quarterback signed, unless you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. Great rest, best in the NFL. Oh, best in NFL history led to a great health. Go figure. Yeah. They had a late bye week 14, which helped them recover en route to the playoffs. Could have been magical, but they lost week 1 to the Chiefs, 27-20. Yeah, that one. That was an Isaiah Likely foot coming down and his heel touching the out of bounds marker there in the back of the end zone. Then they somehow lost to Gardner Minshew-led Antonio Pierce coach Raiders, despite the Ravens being an 8.5-point favorite. That was that weird stretch last year where we saw a lot of these there was so many teams that were like 7.5 or higher favorites that lost outright. We had that stretch, which really made Survivor interesting last year. It was a lot of fun, including my Patriots knocking off the Bengals in week 1. Baltimore could continue to drop games they should have won against inferior teams, such as Week 8 loss to the Browns, Week 11 loss to Steelers. As such, through Week 13, the Ravens sat just 8-5 in 6th place in the AFC, thanks to the schedule that closed with 2 of 4 games against the very worst teams, Giants and the Browns, along with the overrated Steelers and Texans. The Ravens were able to finish out on a 4-0 run. They ended the season 12-5, but they wound up as the number 3 seed in the AFC. That meant instead of hosting the Bills in the playoffs, they had to travel to Buffalo, which they lost 27-25. Excuse me. That was a good game. That was a fun game. The Ravens stomped the Bills 35-10 in Baltimore earlier in the season, so if the two teams were tied at the end of the year, the Ravens would have hosted the playoff game. The Bills were 13-4 while the Ravens were 12-5. Okay, we get that. We get that. No game can be taken for granted because it comes to the competitively seeded playoffs. Every edge, such as home field, matters. The Ravens must figure out a way to better win coin flip games. They went 5-5 last year in games decided by one score, which is wild. You think that they would be better than that. They also went 4-4 in the same situation in 23. It's been a major issue for the Ravens. And yeah, it seems like they get a little lackadaisical. I just think Lamar's going to do something. You know, going to bail them out. Let's take a look at this, though. Here's a projected look ahead lines for the season. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're favored in 15 of their games this season. The only 2 they're not is when they're at Buffalo or at Kansas City. So they're favored in 15 games, yet their season win total is at 11.5. What is Vegas trying to tell you? Derp says Lamar's going to take another dookie poo come playoff time. That's my prediction. Regular seasons don't mean nothing. That's been the case, man. That's been the case. He's definitely earned that narrative until they can finally get over the hump. Take a look at the comparison between the Ravens and Steelers since 2020. These are the regular season results only. The Ravens are 23-24 in one-score games since 2020. The number 18 win rate in the NFL. The Steelers are 37-15 in one-score games since 2020. Number 2 win rate in the NFL, probably only behind the Chiefs. Naturally, a better team like the Ravens will have more close losses than blowout losses. The Ravens have just 6 losses of double digits in that period, while the Steelers have 17. But when you're in the close game and you're not going to lose by double digits and the game is up for grabs, the Ravens have been terrible relative to how good of a team they are. The top 2 teams in one-score win rate over the last 5 years, other than the Steelers, are the Chiefs and the Eagles. Told you it would be the Chiefs. So bottom line is the Baltimore has got to figure this out. While we assume that if Jackson is healthy, the Ravens will make the playoffs, the difference is that their close losses change seeding, which forces you to play tougher opponents in games on the road. Yep. That's pretty self-explanatory there. Let's see. The Chiefs are 9-1 in one-score playoff games over the last 5 years. That is insane. Especially since they never get help from the refs. Never. Let's see. Oh, he's going to make the case that Lamar should have won the MVP last year. This is BS. I don't agree with this. He says, but to me, if Lamar was good enough to win MVP in 2019 and 23 and had an even better stats in 24 than in either of those seasons, and he had even better stats in 24 than Allen, I don't see how Allen was the choice last season. That's because in 23, Lamar didn't have the stats to win it. Lamar shouldn't have won it in 23. He should have either went to Dak Prescott if you're going to give it to a QB. He had way better stats than Lamar. Lamar just had the 1 seed for his team, or it should have went to Christian McCaffrey. He was the one that actually deserved it that year, in my opinion. So, but you had all these talking heads make the case about it's not all about stats, and blah, blah, blah. And then last year, they turn around and try to say, oh, it is about stats. And that's why the Ravens should get it, or Lamar should get it over Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the reason why Josh Allen didn't have the stats is because his team was so damn good, he wasn't playing in most fourth quarters. That's why. And if you take Allen off the Bills don't even sniff the playoffs. Take Lamar off the Ravens, they're not going to be as good of a team, but it's a lot better team overall than what the Bills have. And that's just my opinion on it. But I thought Allen was deserving of it last year. And hell, hey, if you wanted to win it, then maybe you should have won a couple of those. Maybe don't lose to the Raiders. Maybe get the 1 seed if you wanted Allen to actually win or if you wanted Lamar to win the MVP. I have no problem with Allen winning it last year. Totally deserved. Good afternoon, Mont. How we doing? Says to be the man, you've got to beat the man. No, it's a new year, new deal. The same argument why Lamar won it in 23 is the same argument why Allen won it last year. You can't just flip-flop it because you want Lamar to win it again. That's absurd. I'm not saying he does, but there was talking heads on ESPN stuff that were saying that kind of stuff. One of my favorite parts of these chapters is talking about making the argument. Warren Sharp does a good job making the argument for you of why you should bet the under or why you should bet the over, and whatever you feel is more correct, you can choose to go that route. So here's why you should bet under 11.5 wins for the 2025 season of the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens managed to produce 54 sacks, which ranked second in the league last season, despite ranking 21st in pressure rate. Often teams with such disparity in pressure and sack numbers see a massive decline in sack production the following season. Kyle Van Noy led the charge with 12.5 sacks, a solid 13.8% pressure rate. The rest of the team had less impressive rates. Baltimore scored 10 more touchdowns than expected based on yards and red zone trips last season. A team led by Lamar Jackson should routinely outpace their expected touchdowns, but 10 extra touchdowns is a large number, even for a good offense. A couple fewer touchdowns could mean a couple fewer wins next season. Injuries were not much of an issue with Baltimore last season, and it was a big reason for their success. Pretty much every notable starter played all 17 games, including Jackson and Derrick Henry. The Ravens might not be so lucky next season. It could affect their win total. That will be interesting to see. The injury bug. Nothing you can do about it. The fact they were so healthy last year, last year was their year to get it done. But I do think this team is ready to make a run and actually could get to the Super Bowl. It'll just be dependent whether they get hit by the injury bug or not. Here's why you should bet over 11.5 wins for the upcoming 2025 season for the Baltimore Ravens. It was another spectacular draft of the Ravens, who filled two of their biggest needs on days 1 and 2. With the 27th overall pick, they selected Malachi Starks, who will be a difference maker in the secondary. Baltimore followed up by picking Mike Green, a ferocious edge rusher out of Marshall. The rookie will join the already solid defensive unit that ranked 11th in efficiency last season. If this unit improves, so will their win total. Lamar Jackson has managed to improve statistically in each of the past 3 seasons. He's become more comfortable as a pocket passer and has become more efficient. Jackson had the highest QBR in the league last season, threw for 41 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions. On top of that, he rushed for 915 yards and recorded the lowest sack rate of his career. The Ravens will win a lot of games if Jackson continues to produce these numbers. I didn't realize 915 yards. Damn, that's a lot of running. Only 4 INTs. Good season there. Good season there for Lamar. Let's see. Now turn to the final page of this chapter and compare Jackson's 24 season to his 23. Or don't. I can save you some time. Thank you. There are 7 different stable quarterback metrics representing performance that should translate most directly year over year to a quarterback's talent. Things like passing without pressure, passing from the pocket, etc. Lamar's 24 season was better than his 23 season in all 7 metrics, which is exactly why you're making the point he shouldn't have won the MVP in 23. His stats weren't that good. They weren't that good for an MVP caliber season. Basically, he's just telling us that Lamar was way better in 24 than he was in 23, which we already know. Lamar was really good last year. He was really good. See how, dude, I love these charts. Look, you can see how often they run flat, 3 wide receiver, 2 wide receiver, 1 wide receiver. You know, you can break it down. And then you can break it down by their efficiency of EPA per play. He even has heat maps in here. You guys should really go check out that. You can get this digital version, like what we're viewing right now, for I think it's only $30. The book is like 100. It was on sale. I got it for 62 though. It was on sale last month. I don't know if it still is, but still, it's worth every penny. Worth every penny. I do. By the way, not a sponsor. Excuse me, not a sponsor. I don't get paid to say that. I just like to bring you guys good resources. Okay, so let's see. It's just telling us once again how good Lamar was last year. Lamar's EPA per play is higher than Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, and Brock Purdy, amongst others. Lamar's yards per attempt average is higher than Josh Allen and Mahomes. Okay, a bunch of people again. But here's the context you should be aware of. Lamar faces the NFL's #1 highest rate of blitzes of any QB in the playoffs. The NFL average in the playoff is a 26% blitz rate, less than half of what Lamar faces. For comparison, Burrow has blitzed just 15% of his dropbacks. Lamar has blitzed 53% of the time. When Lamar is not blitzed in the playoff in his 19 against the other 19 playoff QBs, and when he's not blitzed, he ranks #1 in all these important categories. Lamar has been the best playoff QB when not blitzed. Period, dude. You need to get off Lamar's nuts. You're getting a little scary here, Warren. I know you're just trying to, give us what the data tells us, but I mean, let's pump them. Did you need all caps? We get it. We get it. For comparison, the NFL, let's see. Lamar faces the highest rate of man coverage. Allen only faces 17% compared to Lamar's 50. Lamar has been the best playoff QB against zone coverage, period. Yeah, because if you play Lamar in zone, he's going to run option on you every single day, and twice on Sundays. He's the #1 QB in the playoffs statistically against what most QBs face most of the time. You know who's #1 in the playoffs? Patrick Mahomes. We know why, because he has the most trophies. You can be #1 in all these cool categories. Let's take the category of Super Bowl rings. Let's take a look at Lamar's rings and Patrick's. Let's look at Lamar's rings and Jalen Hurts' rings. What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, I get it. He's good. He's really good. For some odd reason, though, he can't ever be that good when the team needs him most. I mean, I know it's not all on Lamar, but at this point, we're going to put a lot of pressure on Lamar because it's just what happens. You're the quarterback. You're getting paid all that money. Everyone, you've gotten your MVPs. Everyone praises how well you are statistically. At the end of the day, you got to finally win something, Hell, get to the Super Bowl. How about that? Let's start there. Let's get to the Super Bowl. Did I already pass the? No, I didn't pass that yet. They have a nice little section here. I don't get too much into it, but fantasy football advice and stuff like that. What do we do with Mark Andrews? Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, Isaiah Likely. Kind of breaks down all those players. You can read that if you want. Let's look at the Ravens defense. I'm always curious about this. The Ravens were arguably the top run defense in the league last season, finishing first in yards allowed per running back carry, 3.5, 6 in negative run rate on those QBs, and first in yards after contact allowed by a running back. While Michael Pierce retired, the core of the 24 unit returns. Mad Dibuki consistently made plays in the backfield last season, and Travis Jones logged 12 run stuffs of his own, finishing with a tackle on almost 20% of his run defense snaps. The Ravens recorded 54 sacks, second most in the league, but their 33% pressure rate ranked 21st. Cowboy and Noy led the team with 12.5 sacks, putting up a very good 13.8 pressure rate. Alway contributed 10 sacks, but his 11.7% pressure rate was less impressive, and a big fall off from where he was in 23, though he only had 5 sacks that season. Ajobu, however you say that, David Ajabo, finally got on the field for an extended time after playing 5 games the first 2 seasons, but he did not shine in the rotation role, logging at just a 7.1% pressure rate. Robinson did not do any better for those. Okay, basically those guys suck. A linebacker Roquan Smith ranked first on the team with 17. Roquan Smith is a beast. Third round pick Trent Simpson did not fare as well in his first taste of real action, allowing 3 touchdowns and a 121.4 quarterback rating on his coverages. That's not good. No wonder they went and drafted some defensive guys this year. Brandon Stevens was the other primary snap taker at corner, but he joined the Jets in free agency. Awazi was added early, but the addition of Jair Alexander in June could end up being what the Ravens need to replace Stevens. Didn't Jair Alexander get hurt? The Ravens selecting Malachi Starks in the first round could also free up Hamilton to help out more of the corner moving forward. Yep. More stats, charts, all that stuff. If you're a data junkie, I love this because it tells you when do they score. The Ravens were the number 2 team last year, scoring points in the second quarter. They were the number 2 team leading at halftime. Number 3 team in the third quarter. Number 4 team in the fourth quarter. I also tell you they're against the spread coverage. Just beautiful. Mark Andrews led the team with red zone targets with 16 last year, followed by Isaiah Likely. Not a surprise. The Ravens have the 21st easiest schedule this season, so that means they have the 11th toughest schedule. Yeah, it's not an easy schedule that they have. We looked at that at the beginning of this. Definitely not easy. Let's see. Let's look at some of Lamar's splits from the Ravens' playoff loss against the Bills last year. So his best was man, no blitz. He had 3 pass attempts, 75% success rate, 17.3 yards per attempt. Pretty good. He had 29 yards. Oh, there's only 2 attempts. Okay, never mind. So the Ravens against the Bills were dominant against everything other than man blitzes, and the Bills knew it. During the season, the Bills used man blitzes on just 11.7% of dropbacks, number 16 in the NFL, and below the league average. They used it on just 11.5% of early down passes, but against Jackson in the playoffs, the Bills used an insane 47.6% of early down passes and 37% of all dropbacks. Well, the Bills did their homework, and the Ravens clearly did not, or did not plan, or have a plan in place. What happens if the Bills are going to do man blitzes on you? So credit to Sean McDermott and the Bills coaching staff, but this clearly is something that other teams are aware of. The Steelers have done a ton of damage against Jackson and the Ravens for years using man blitzes. No team uses man blitzes more against Lamar than Mike Tomlin does. Mike. And a baby Mike. Steelers are 8-2, 80% against the Ravens since 2020. That's something to think about when they play the Steelers this year. Hell, in the AFC Championship in 23 against the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo went from a 15% average of blitzes to 32% against Jackson. I think we figured out his kryptonite. But this guy's supposed to be amazing. You guys are telling me he's the MVP. You guys are telling me this guy's so good. He's been the best playoff quarterback that we've seen in the last few years. But he can't handle a blitz. Doesn't seem like what the best quarterback in the league should. You think the best quarterback in the league should be able to handle a couple blitzes, you know? But he's statistically number 1 best QB in all other situations. Well, get better at this one, man. The Ravens should know how to expect it, or should know to expect it, and they need to be better prepared schematically to punish it. I'm surprised Harbaugh hasn't figured this out or figure out a way to solve this problem. Unfortunately, things get more difficult in 25 from a rest perspective. The Ravens had the NFL's best rest schedule in history last year. This year it ranks number 7 for just the 25 season. Last year, the Ravens played 2 games with a rest disadvantage. This year, they play 4. Last year, they played 5 games with a rest edge. This year, they play 3. Last year, they were +3 net game with rest edge. This year, it's a -1, a 4-game swing. Last year, they had a late bye. This year, they have a pretty early bye in week 7. That means they'll have a long stretch of games to play while trying to balance winning with staying healthy through the early January and into December. That doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't it be December and into early January? Either way, they also play the Chiefs and the Bills on the road this year. The Ravens will be competing for home field advantage with these teams and are at a disadvantage entering the season. I still think the Ravens are going to start off hot and then cool down. From weeks 9 through 18, the Ravens play 10 games and 6 are on the road. They also have a short week road game against Miami on Thursday, but it's Miami. You don't have to worry about that. The Ravens start the season and is absolutely brutal, so they need to emerge from training camp and the preseason not only healthy but focused. I think we saw that this week. They play the number 1 toughest schedule of opponents in their first 6 weeks. 5 of the 6 teams have win totals of at least 9.5 this year. Damn. Maybe we should fade that. Maybe we wait. Maybe we think the Ravens stumble. Maybe we wait, bet against the Ravens, and then buy on them after the first 6 weeks, after their bye. Question is, can this Raven team make the Super Bowl? Lamar said, I'm tired of being right here or right there. We need to punch in that ticket after the playoff loss exit last season. Super Bowl window doesn't stay open indefinitely, and this Ravens team is loaded with talent on both sides of the ball. The clock is ticking on the core group of players, and 25 may present the best opportunity for the Ravens to capture the Lombardi Trophy. I think 24 was the best opportunity, if you ask me. That team was freaking good last year. Remember last year's start, they lost to the Chiefs in week 1 on the road, then dropped a home game to Minshew and the Raiders in week 2, despite being an 8.5-point favorite. Yes, it was embarrassing. This year, they play the Bills in week 1 on the road and have a home game against Joe Flacco's Browns. Kind of sounds like we're headed for the same situation. They need to be ready for man blitzes against the Bills out of the gate, and they need to ensure that they don't take a beating from the Browns. Now, one good thing about this is they know that they're playing the Bills in week 1 in Buffalo, same as the last game they just played in January. They know what the Bills are going to do. They know the Bills are going to blitz more than they normally do. You have all off seasons to figure this out. So I would give because the Bills aren't going to change anything. You know what the Bills are going to do. Why would the Bills not blitz like crazy? Because it worked for them in the play. Why would they not do it again? Right? They've seen teams blitz Lamar, and that's how they stop them. Why wouldn't they do that again? So if you're the Ravens, you have the advantage because you know what they're going to do. Now you just need to go out and execute. Ravens must figure out those pesky man blitzes and be prepared to counter them. The Ravens must figure out how to win close games this year. The odds that Jackson has as great a season as he did in 24 are low, so the defense, which fell off last season, must step up. They must figure out their penalty issue. They had 132 penalties, the second most of any team. Only the Jets were worse. That is terrible company. If you're in the same company as the Jets, and I don't care what category, that is not good. That's why you didn't even sniff the Super Bowl. The Ravens can't win enough games to get home field advantage when they're committing the number 2 most penalties, and the Chiefs are committing the 4th fewest. For example, the Ravens had 7 roughing the passer penalties, the most in the NFL. The Bills had 0, and Chiefs had 1. The Ravens had this is funny. The Ravens must get a rookie kicker to perform better than former kicker Justin Tucker did last season. Good luck. Good luck. One way to avoid a young kicker cracking under pressure is to not put him in the situation in late games by jumping out to leads and coasting down the stretch. There's a version of the 25 season where the Ravens finally get over the hump, where their roster stays healthy, the penalties are cleaned up, the kicker holds his nerves, the offense shreds man blitzes, and Lamar turns another MVP caliber season into postseason validation. But for that to happen, Baltimore can't keep playing like a team that's allergic to the margins. They can't afford another wasted home loss to a backup quarterback. They can't afford another year leading the league in penalties, including EPA losses. They can't afford another season going 501 scored games while watching the Chiefs and Bills turn those same coin flip games into home field advantage. Most importantly, they can't keep walking to the playoffs vulnerable to the exact same defensive plan that's worked against them time and time again. The Ravens are too good to keep losing like this, too talented, too dynamic, too consistent in everything except the things that matter most in January. And there it is. That's the key point right there. So quit with all this Lamar shit of him being the best statistical quarterback out there. You got to translate that into rings. I'm going to keep saying that. A 24 taught them anything. It's at the smallest lapses, one busted coverage, one roughing penalty, one missed kick, one failed blitz pickup are the difference between hoisting a trophy and watching the confetti fall for someone else. The path is there. The quarterback is more than capable. It's no longer about proving they belong in the conversation. It's about proving they can finish it. What a way to end that chapter. And there's more stats and stuff here. You can see. I missed. Where was the That's Lamar stats. There was he usually has a chart. Maybe I just missed it. Of their ATS record. You have the ATS coverage right there, but where's their? Let's see. Maybe I missed it. Probably I did. Look at all this info you get. Maybe it's up here. Here it is. Team records and trends. So their average line, they averaged being 6-point favorites per game last season. That is insane. Almost double. Actually, no, almost double what they were in 23. That is insane. Their average over-under line was 47.3 last year. Their straight-up record is 12-5. I like looking at this. Against the spread record, 10-6. Over-under record, they went over 13 of the 17 games. They were 10-5 against the spread as a favorite. 0-1 against the spread as an underdog. Look at that. 6-2 at home. Just fun little things. Teaser records. They were a good teaser team last year. Fun little stuff like that. You should go check out this book. But that's your Baltimore Ravens, man. I mean, he maps it out perfectly. They got to hope they stay healthy, hope the defense steps up, and most importantly, Lamar needs to learn how to pick up man blitzes. He needs to figure out how to get past man blitzes. They do that. You would think with a running back like Derrick Henry, they can figure that kind of stuff out. But they figure that stuff out and stay healthy. The Ravens could finally get over the hump this year. But that is your Baltimore Ravens 2025 NFL preview.